I call these success stories. Okay, and a success story is like a mini case study, and it's focused on the customer or the client's experience. Again, it's not what you do, it's about the customer or the client. And these success stories give you a whole lot of credibility. Leslie, type into the chat box the definition of a third-party endorsement. Let's see what you have to say about the concept of a third-party endorsement. Because a success story is an example. If you, let's say you're Chris and you're in commercial real estate and you're calling the owner of a building and you say you're able to help building owners drive revenue, and then you give an example of how you were able to do that, that could be very powerful. Let's say that you are Natalie and you're calling business owners and you're saying that you're able to help businesses leap ahead of the competition, and you're able to give an example of how you're able to do that. That could be very powerful. So let's see the definitions here. What do we have here? Okay, we have, Christopher says it worked for me and it could work for you. Not exactly, although Christopher goes on to say it's not coming from someone who is selling the service. Not exactly, Christopher. Kim says third-party endorsement is the best referral you can receive. That's true, but that's not a definition. Sheila says verified purchase user with clout in the particular industry. Sean says testimonial. Carl says testimonial from a customer who thinks you walk on water after you solve their burning issue. Okay. A third-party endorsement, the definition of a third-party endorsement is simply some third party, not you, somebody else saying really good things about you. That is the definition. And so testimonials are third-party endorsements. There's somebody else saying you rock or your company rocks. And I'll give you a concrete example. Let's say you really like to eat out. And so you move to a new place and you're trying out restaurants, and there's a restaurant that has a big sign in the window that says, best restaurant in town. And then there's another restaurant, a friend of yours who really knows good food said, oh, you should eat at this other restaurant because they have the best food in town. Who are you going to believe? The restaurant owner that put the sign in the window that says best restaurant in town, or your friend that points you to another restaurant and says, that's the best restaurant in town? Of course, you're going to go with your friend's recommendation because everybody knows the owner put the sign in the window. That's not a third-party endorsement. The third-party endorsement is your friend, that disinterested party, saying a restaurant is the best one in town. So when you give an example, when you tell a success story about a client that had a problem and you, your company, your service, your product solved it, this is very, very powerful. It gives you great credibility. And you can actually use success stories on the phone, but you can also use them when you're face-to-face, when you actually meet with that prospect. They are very, very powerful. Okay, so this is the structure of a success story. Here goes. What was the challenge? So the business owner had a building that was empty. That was the challenge. What were the actions taken? Well, Chris and his team came along and they filled the building with tenants. And the results were revenue went up. Okay? Natalie has a client that is really worried about falling behind the competition. They're losing money. So Natalie comes in with her team, and they do whatever it is they do, and the result is not only do they pull in line with that, with the competition, that they actually jump ahead of the competition, and maybe revenue goes up. Maybe there's a specific dollar amount you can quote. That is the structure of a success story. And a success story, I'm using the word story, but that does not mean that you're making this up. You are giving the facts. This is not about being hypey, saying, oh, we are the best, we are the world leader, we are the biggest. It's not about that. It's about what was the problem, what was the challenge, what were the actions you took, what was the result. And I will tell you, the more specific you are, the more credible you are going to seem.